welcome to Ball Seat. I'm joined by George Knott, a football analyst who has taken a look at Liverpool's tactics over the last few months. So what we're here to do really is break down the reasons why Liverpool struggled, I suppose, early on in the season and where we are today, and those little tactical shifts that George has noticed from Jurgen Klopp's side on the first game of the season to Jurgen Klopp's side over the last few weeks. So George, what is it that interested you first and foremost, and why did you think Liverpool struggled against low block sides early in the season?
Well, that's exactly what did interest me, was looking at how kind of over the summer there's maybe looking at these new signings coming in, but something wasn't working at the start of the season. It was a case of kind of same old, and there were sort of some interesting stats being thrown around. I remember after game week 10, so it's sort of mid-October. I saw this stat come out that said Liverpool across Europe's top 5 leagues had created the 4th highest amount of chances of all teams. We created 107 chances, and we were behind Real Madrid, Napoli and Bayern Munich. And I had a look at those leagues, and all those teams were first or second in their leagues. They were doing really well. But we were 6th in the Premier League with -2 goal difference. So that immediately kind of got me thinking, there's something a bit up here. How are we creating all these chances and not scoring loads of goals?
Is it the quality of chance that Liverpool were creating?
I think that might be it. I really think it could be. You know, something that struck me to be really interesting was when I had a bit of digging around and had a look at who was creating chances for Liverpool. And I found out that actually Roberto Firmino, interestingly, was Liverpool's highest chance creator. And I kind of looked around at some of the other teams in the top 6. Yeah, I was looking at Man United. I think they've got Mkhitaryan as the top chance creator. I think Chelsea had Fabregas. So it's kind of saying to me that maybe there's something, certainly at the start of the season, that was going a bit amiss. And I think part of the factor was that Firmino, although he's your striker, likes to naturally drop in.
Yeah.
Now, right, okay, all well and good. It's how he plays. He wins the ball back, he comes in. But if he's dropping in, and you've then got Mane and Salah, that's then suddenly limiting the chances of who he's going to create chances for. And now at the start of the season, as we said, we didn't have Coutinho in the team. So you've got quite, and often quite criticised, but quite a workman-like midfield three. They're midfielders, they're not attackers. When you have these three, they've often felt the sense that there wasn't one designated player to go forward. So you'd often get maybe 2, and you'd find Wijnaldum and Can both quite far up the pitch.
Yeah, lead into holes at the back.
Exactly. That's where it kind of comes through. We're creating these sort of half chances, and then you've then got these players pushed up. So let's say you've got Wijnaldum's then pushing up, Chan's pushing up. Now what does your back 4 do in line with that? They don't want to leave a big gap. So you've suddenly got Matip coming up, Lovren coming up, Moreno coming up as far as you want, really.
Yeah.
But what this does then is it's this like frustration, which then brings kind of counter attacks on you. And this was a big problem for Liverpool in the start of the season. And I have a lot of respect for Klopp, how over the past couple of weeks it looks like he's started to recognise these problems and is now looking to kind of mould his tactics in light of that. Something for me that was quite interesting was the game Liverpool played against West Ham. Coutinho was out. Henderson actually dropped out at the last minute, which maybe turned out to be a bit fortunate. But there's one player that, for me, provides Klopp with real tactical flexibility in a way that actually no other player does, and was a player that came in the summer for big money, really big money. I think it was around £40 million. And there was kind of this uncertainty as to where Oxlade-Chamberlain is going to fit into this Liverpool team. You've got these guys at the front performing very well. Naturally, you'd think he's going to come in as a right winger, maybe a left winger. Klopp said, I don't want to play him in the middle of the park at the moment. I'm not sure he's developed enough. I'm not sure he's got the attributes to play there right now. And then this lineup came up against West Ham, and you look at it and it's a really interesting lineup. And I remember before the game looking at it thinking, right, how are we going to play this? And I didn't think for a second that Liverpool might move out of the 4-3-3. And my initial instinct was that, you know what, maybe he's gone have a go in the middle of the park, Chamberlain. And then the game started, and that's not how Liverpool played. And it was, for me, it was a really, really interesting way of just moulding the team slightly differently.
It's funny, that one, because I think if we all remember, Liverpool fans will think on the day, all we focused on was Mane.
Yeah.
Because he got sprung upon us, and everybody was thinking Mane's back, and really what you're saying is the biggest thing that happened in that game was the Ox came in.
Yeah, I think so. Just from this kind of showed this like tactical fluidity that we've not really seen from Klopp before, because the way that Liverpool actually did end up playing was a kind of, let's start it off a bit like this. It's kind of a 4-2-4 in a way, and it looked as we started to play that that's how we were going to play. But the really interesting role for me was Chamberlain, and I did a little bit of digging around. And I had a look at a stat that I found quite interesting, which was sort of average recoveries per 90 minutes.
Ball recoveries.
Ball recoveries, yeah. Now, Oxlade-Chamberlain is already on 7 average ball recoveries per game. He's winning the ball back a lot. There's only one player in our squad that kind of noticeably tops that, which is Jordan Henderson, with 9. Everyone kind of knows that Henderson is, you know, Mr. Industry in the middle of the park. So it's interesting to me that Klopp has kind of, even with Chamberlain playing in a wide role, has clearly been kind of working him a bit differently, trying to maybe even get him with a view to playing in the middle of the park one day. And what was really interesting against West Ham was that he actually almost played as kind of a right wing back, which for me just kind of totally changed the way we play, and it added this really nice balance to the team. So you've got Moreno at left back. Now he's very much
attacking minded.
He's a left wing back, and he's been criticised so much in the past, not so much this season actually, but in the past for leaving gaps in behind. And so what Klopp clearly thought was that, right, Moreno, you can attack a bit if you want. I've got these 3 lads, Lovren, Matip, and then Gomez, who's been playing all season until then as like an orthodox right back, you'd say, not a centre half.
You know, he used to be. Well, he is a centre back.
And you think about the games against the game against Brazil for England. You know, Southgate was very happy playing him as a right-sided centre back, and this then allows Chamberlain to play almost as kind of a right wing back of sorts, going up and down the flank.
Well, that role's normally reserved for a Wijnaldum, a Chan. Something like that, all the way forwards, all the way back. But what we're seeing, as you're saying, is that Chamberlain did that on the right-hand side of the pitch.
And also what it does then is what's interesting is how it frees up Mo Salah as well. I was looking at, so Salah came in to play, most people thought as a right winger, you know, Liverpool player, 4-3-3, he comes in, obvious role, plays on the right wing. And I was looking around at where he played at Roma last season, and I think he played 27 times as a right winger for Roma last season, and 11 times as an attacking midfielder. And a lot of people will be kind of fully aware of that. It's no secret that he did kind of come in and play as an attacking midfielder. But I then kind of looked sort of further into that as to when Roma did play. So Roma would often play with a kind of a 3-4-3 system, and Salah being the right winger at the top of that 3-4-3. But with them playing with wing backs, and let's say this is kind of how Chamberlain was playing here, that sort of furthest winger on both sides almost plays kind of an attacking midfield role, because you've got a wing back to go beyond you.
Yeah, so you don't want to be in that fella's space, do you? You don't want to be in Chamberlain's space, so it frees him up to go a little bit more central.
You want to be receiving cutbacks maybe. You don't want to be the guy crossing them in. I mean, Salah's so left-footed as well that that's just not his role. And so Klopp's clearly seen this and gone, hold on, I've got a guy who can play right wing, but he's absolutely fine playing through the centre as well. There's no issue with that. So what he's then gone is he said to Chamberlain, look mate, you go on the right and you just work. You work your socks off. And it's interesting that is this kind of his way of sort of, this is just theory on my part, but that when Chamberlain came in, he's kind of deliberately not giving him minutes. Maybe with this role in mind, knowing that it's going to take so much to play this role. I mean, for me, playing a wing back is maybe one of the most physically demanding roles on the pitch. Does he kind of keep him on the bench? You know, Chamberlain's a very positive guy, just in his character, is what it seems like from a fan. That he's kind of held him back so that when he does come on, he knows that he's going to work his socks off to try and play as best he can. And then kind of the final cog in this sort of machine for me was what we were saying earlier about Firmino, Mr. Chance Creator. Right, well, it's all well and good when you've got that midfield 3, him dropping in, but who's he creating chances for? Yeah. Well, suddenly you've got Mo Salah, who's happy to play on the final line. And it was interesting for me in this game, you look at previous games this season and you have a look at the amount of, how many goals, how many chances we created to how many goals we scored. So the Palace game at home, for every 9 chances we created, we scored a goal. The Burnley game at home, for every 30 chances we created, we scored a goal. The West Ham game, for every 3 chances we created, we scored a goal. Now that's saying to me that
the quality of chances improved.
Think of the goals against West Ham. I mean, Salah knocked one from a one-on-one. Chamberlain knocked one from a one-on-one. And also the Chamberlain one's really interesting because it was the perfect mix of all these three things. You've got Firmino creating the chance. Let's also add in, he did produce an unbelievable bit of skill to work through. But you've then got, instead of Salah, who'd usually be out on the right, he'd come right across, and you actually see when the goal's scored, Salah's pretty much at the back post, and you suddenly got Chamberlain then attacking that space from a kind of a right midfield role as opposed to a right wing role. And it's just very interesting to see how essentially Klopp has kind of looked at these issues and has moulded his team, and has then also led to kind of a bit more defensive solidity. I mean, we conceded one against West Ham, a clean sheet against Southampton, a clean sheet against Huddersfield, because it then allows these two guys in centre mid,
Channel Wijnaldum, to just sit that little bit deeper, not have to worry about getting further up the field. As you mentioned earlier on in the video, they're not the best at finishing those chances anyway. So you use them for what they're good at, and that obviously makes, if it's Chan, if it's Henderson, it doesn't matter. There's less field to cover sideline to sideline. Okay, so we've brought Phil Coutinho back into the midfield. We've set it up slightly differently, more that 4-3-3. How do you think dropping Phil Coutinho into midfield, the evolving role of Roberto Firmino, and obviously Mane and Salah being in this side will affect Liverpool over the next few weeks?
It's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, for me, what it then adds is kind of, if Firmino wants to drop in, Coutinho is very happy kind of going beyond. But what it also allows then is kind of Salah to come in behind. We've already seen a couple of times that ball from Coutinho to Salah. But a crucial part of that for me is Firmino dropping in. So let's say you've got whoever the opposition is, their centre-half's been told Firmino's their striker, mark him. Right, so Firmino goes, all right, mate, come with me here. Now, there's maybe other players on this Liverpool team who don't have that foresight to pick through the balls that they do. But suddenly you've got Salah here on a left back, and there's one of the centre backs has come out, and he'll make this run that we've already seen him make a couple of times. That's just really simple, just around like that, and it just opens up the space. But it's also just quite interesting defensively then, because these guys can sit in. We've already seen Wijnaldum hasn't got much more forward that much. But what's going to be really, really interesting, I think, over the next kind of couple of weeks is to see how kind of mid-table teams and below now come to Anfield, because last season and the start of this season, Burnley was a prime example. You'd see a lot of teams a bit further down the table, well, Burnley aren't exactly that much further down right now, credit to them, would come and they'd sit in and they'd just play a bank of 4 and a bank of 5, and it would work a lot. It would really frustrate us. But we're now showing our ability to pick off these teams. So what's going to be the point of teams coming to Anfield and sitting in and still getting 3 past them?
There's no point, is there? And the best example for me of that is Southampton. We didn't score against them in 4 games over the last 12 months. And they've come to Anfield and they've got absolutely tanked. And they've not changed the way that they play. Liverpool have changed the way that we play.
Exactly. You know, we've got teams coming up where you would expect them to play like that, but why would you do that if you just know that you've got these front 4 to contend with who are going to pick you apart? Like, there's not really that much question about it. So that's surely only going to benefit Liverpool if you've then got teams who are suddenly going to go, all right, well, let's have a go. I think we're going to see some very, very exciting games at Anfield.
Yeah, that's it, and hopefully so. And if you've not guessed already, apart from being a football analyst, you'll have heard George mention the word "we" a few times. George is absolutely a massive Liverpool fan. Thanks very much for your time, George. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Getting to know you and also getting to see a little bit of insight into how Jurgen Klopp's tactics have evolved this season, and I'll be looking forward to seeing how they evolve next season. Now, don't forget to like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to Ball Street on YouTube, and I'll see you next time.